leave here knowing you need to look at your policy and make sure you have uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. And they go, well, it's going to cost a lot of money. I'm like, call me. Let's walk through your policy. I'm not an insurance expert. I just know how it plays in the real world.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Plan Man. Finance, insurance, and more.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Plan Man. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. I have the pleasure of being joined by Paul Shalhoub up in West Palm Beach. I say it right, Shalhoub?
Yes, you got it right.
I was 0 for 2. And folks, Paul is a personal injury attorney, and he and I met at a cancer fundraising event last month. And his specialty is talking with people, educating clients on how to handle insurance claims. And so a lot of people come to me, Paul, frustrated. Their rates are going up. They don't understand why they're paying what they're paying. But at the same time, they don't understand what they're doing to cause elevated rate increases. And that's how they handle their claims. And so I'm always talking to them about come contact your agent, talk to people before you contact the insurance company and see if it's a worthwhile necessity to put in that claim. And the other piece I tell them is the second you call them, even with a hypothetical, they know that's BS. Like they know you've got a problem, and they whether they tell you or not, or you know it or not, they're putting it in as a claim. And so you got to be careful. Florida is the coconut law. You know, because we have the coconuts, you get your windshields replaced for free. There's no deductibles. But guess what? You can't get unlimited amount of free windshields without your rates going up. It's a claim. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you, your practice, and you know, what kind of tips can we talk about today and share with the listener and help them improve, do better? Like what do you do when you lecture on the topic? Give us a
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bruce. I really appreciate being here. Born and raised in Palm Beach County. I was born over down the street from where my office is at Good Sam. And I've been practicing law here for almost 15 years. All of it's been in the personal injury realm. And I recently opened up my own law firm, focusing nothing but personal injury. One of the big things that I like to do in my practice, and I've been doing for years now, is educating just regular people, obviously outside my industry, on what type of car insurance they have, what happens when you make a phone call to your insurance carrier to tell them about what happened to your car, tell them what happened to your home if it's your homeowner's claim, and how all of those can lead to, if not they do lead to, increased insurance rates and premiums. So what I've noticed over the years is a lot of people have no idea what full coverage means, what it means to have actual coverage that provides you with assistance, that actually benefits you, what protects you. And I'd like to go over a lot of those different areas with, honestly, just members of the public, my fellow citizens of Palm Beach County, our fellow residents, because if they don't know what they're buying, the insurance agents typically that I find aren't really explaining it well to them. And so they come to me and they're sitting there going, there's no way I don't have that coverage, Paul. I have full coverage. And I have yet to have one person in any of the lectures I've done know exactly what full coverage means here in the state of Florida as far as auto is concerned.
When we're dealing with claims, your universe is more in the auto and home side, correct? From the claim standpoint, the bigger ticket items?
For the most part, it's auto and premises liability. I deal with people with homeowners insurance, and to the extent people get hurt on someone's home. Okay. That being said, because of my vast experience on the insurance defense side, where I was protecting the insurance carrier's money, every firm I worked at did property damage defense. So I have a lot of experience just in what that means and how that operates and goes. A lot of my colleagues practice in that world, whether it's on the plaintiff side or on the defense side. So whether they're representing the homeowner or they're representing the insurance carrier. And I personally went through a situation where my premiums increased, where I actually had a difficulty getting insurance. When I was a newbie lawyer, I bought my first home. I was like, oh man, I have some water intrusion. I got to contact my carrier. I got to be a good insured. And I called my carrier and I said, I need y'all to come look at this. I don't know where the water came from, but I just bought the house less than a year ago. Take a look. And they come in, determine that it came in through a gap in a door in the garage. Nothing's covered. And I said, all right. I was like, you sure it's not a roof leak? They said, yeah. They gave me a whole report, basically saying my house is perfectly fine except for this gap in this, garage door. A couple years later, I tried to go get new insurance when the insurance carriers were turning over, and I was getting rejected because they said I had a claim,
Right.
and they were telling me I had to replace my roof. It's like, why I got to replace my roof? They said, oh, because you had the claim. I said, I'll show you the report you paid that said my roof is perfectly fine. And it became very clear to me that the insurance companies, yes, you need them, but they are 100% looking out for them. They want to take as much money from you as they can and pay out as little as possible.
So how are you an advocate these days? Like what would our listener come to you for to help with? How far out of the gate or the barn does their situation have to be? Like walk us through those steps. If somebody had, I guess, an auto accident,
right?
Is that the first line of defense there, or your first?
It is.
Okay.
I actually want people to contact me before they're in an accident, or listen to this podcast or be a part of any lectures, because if you know what you need to know when you get into the accident, you're much better prepared for how to deal with what comes after that accident.
Right.
In particular, since we're on the topic of insurance, understanding what car insurance you have. Do you have the proper limits? Some people might be driving around with $500,000 in limits and bodily injury limits and not appreciate they probably don't need that. And they have zero in uninsured motorist coverage, which is something that they really need because that type of coverage is what benefits them. So one of the things I always start with in my lectures, my lunch and learns, is I come out the gates and I ask, all right, who knows what full coverage is? And people raise their hand, and I get answers all over the place. Oh, I got all the coverage I need. I'm fully covered. I got the Cadillac of coverage. I have all the insurance there is to buy. And I simply explain to them, no, that's not accurate. If your insurance agent told you have full coverage, that means you have your personal injury protection, which is your PIP, and you have your property damage protection, and that's it. Property damage coverage. That's it. That's all you're required to have in Florida, which means plenty of people driving around out here don't have bodily injury coverage, which means if they cause an accident and they hurt somebody else, that person says, hey, you hurt me. And then they hire someone like myself to go after them and get them compensation. And those people don't have any insurance.
There's no coverage, and then they're going after your personal assets. And that's what we try and tell people all the time. We're asked for quotes on a regular basis. Everybody's balking about their rate increases, and way, way too many people, especially if they have a younger household driver, right? A new driver, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and they carry state minimum. And you're trying to explain to them, right? The state minimum, 2550 instead of 300, 100, or, whatever the numbers are. And you're trying to explain to them, like, once that money's exhausted, they come after your house, they come after your bank accounts, your stock brokerage accounts, which is why Florida is such a big trust, probate purposes. People use trusts, and then for litigation. So your home and your assets and property, if you don't have it in a trust, you're going to be held liable against your personal assets once your insurance runs out. God forbid you commit a homicide and you're on the hook for $3 million. Where do you think that money's going to come from? Your insurance says, hey, buddy, you got 50 grand. Yeah, we're done. Yeah. Right?
No, 100%. That's why the bodily injury coverage is important. And what a lot of people don't appreciate is that your level of UM coverage is predicated upon the amount of bodily injury coverage.
So I before you even started, I wrote down uninsured motorist because that's always a confusing, complicated type of conversation. You get different opinions. So from your perspective, because literally the rates double when somebody has or doesn't have uninsured motorist. So let's, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but let's dummy it down and let's give basic 101 auto insurance explanation of uninsured motorist, what it is, why you need it, and where people who are shopping price are leaving themselves vulnerable.
Absolutely. And I also find it's people who just don't know what insurance they're buying. I had some of the richest people come to me very wealthy, and they don't even have uninsured motorist coverage because they were never told what it was and how to buy it and what it does. So the easiest way that I explain uninsured motorist coverage is this. If you're driving your car, you're stopped at a red light, and somebody smashes into the rear end of your vehicle. You get hurt, and you want compensation for your injuries. The person behind you has zero bodily injury coverage. They don't have any at all. And you're sitting there going, well, that's not fair. I should get compensated. I'm like, okay, do you have uninsured motorist coverage? If they don't, case closed. There's nothing you can do. There's no pot of money there. If they do, if you have uninsured motorist coverage, that's coverage you maintain with your carrier. Then you can actually go after your carrier's coverage for your uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, and you can seek compensation from really that pot of money. It's the only, insurance you buy that actually can help you as a person or you as your family compared to all the other ones. All the other ones are protecting your assets. This one's helping you when you're the one who's injured.
So it's in essence, if I can stretch that, it's a separate pool of money that's been created that we as the individual fund and pay for, so that if the next guy, and I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, it's like 28% or some crazy number of people are uninsured down here in South Florida. So, it's some massive number of people are either driving poorly covered or not even covered, and they don't care. So, if 1 out of 4 drivers out there are not properly insured and something happens to you, then this is a bucket of money that's been funded, created, where, if you, God forbid, lost your ability to work, or a limb, or somebody was perished, that compensation can be claimed.
Absolutely. That's really what it is all about. One of the things I make sure that everybody that I speak to when I do my lunch and learns or lectures on it is that leave here knowing you need to look at your policy and make sure you have uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. And they go, well, it's going to cost a lot of money. I'm like, call me. Let's walk through your policy. I'm not an insurance expert. I just know how it plays in the real world. You're the expert, right? I understand what they need to be properly taken care of and where you can trim here and add there. And if you're trimming from the BI side to add to the UM side, the uninsured motorist side, then it's probably going to be worth your while. If you have 2 vehicles and you can stack them, then it's going to be worth your while.
Explain stack to them. Let's not assume people know what we're talking about. So that's a great term.
Great point. So a lot of insurance companies don't even explain what stacking is. And stacking is when you have multiple vehicles that have uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. You can have them separate. So one policy has a $50,000 UM coverage. One vehicle has another 50. That's fine. But what you can do if you have 2 or more vehicles, you can get stacking coverage, which costs a little bit more.
Right.
But you go from having 50, and now it's times however many vehicles you have. So if you have 2 vehicles, that 50 turns into 100 on both vehicles.
Right.
I've seen agents allow people to buy stacking on a 1 vehicle UM.
What stack?
I've seen
one times one is still one, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and then they buy stacking on 1 vehicle. They have 2, but they don't have uninsured coverage on the second vehicle.
Oh, well,
so then it's back to stacking times 1. I find a lot of these individuals are calling 800 numbers or getting some type of an ad, and then you have inexperienced agents, in a call center trying to make these sales, and they're just getting whatever needs to be done. Check the boxes, get the credit card information, make the payment, and the insured, who's not going to what I would consider a qualified agent who knows what they're doing, who's in the community, is the one who suffers from it.
Well, like I said, the problem I'm encountering, and if you look back at some recent episodes I had, I kind of go on some tirades about everybody shopping, their auto in their home, and their agents like myself and my partner Will are being bombarded with requests. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many programs, meaning insurance companies and coverages out there. And at the end of the day, it's just a time suck because everybody's getting the rate increases. There's no relief. It's not that they're targeting you. And I'm trying to explain to people, like, it's just where we are between the hurricanes and the losses that the insurance companies have taken and the lack of carriers in the marketplace. The rates have just skyrocketed. Insurance is nothing more than a pool of your money and my money put together. And today you need it. And next time, God forbid, I need it. We need the money to be there because you took it all out and now somebody has to put it back. And so that's what insurance is. That's what life insurance is. It's all about risk assessment and risk management, and then dealing with the other buzzword is adverse risk. So the adverse risk is a person who has 5 speeding tickets and 2 accidents and a teenage driver that's, causing all kinds of problems. And they go, well, I need to shop it. My rates are, $1,000 a month. I'm like, nobody wants you. You're lucky you're not being dropped and have no coverage. So you have to deal with that pain. You have to pay the piper to get your record to be cleaned up. You have to stay clean and on the up and up, meaning no more tickets, no more accidents. You gotta wait your turn and then hopefully see your rates start to subside. But carrier one isn't going to want your problems. If you're a bad driver with a ton of claims, they're going to charge you $2,000 a month. Like, they're going to be like, if you're dumb enough to pay us $2,000, then we'll take you, right? But you're like, well, I'm trying to knock my $1,000 down. Well, it's not going to happen. So, that's the bad drivers. Now, the good drivers, they're getting caught up in it, obviously, because everybody's getting rate increases. And so what do? They're lowering their coverages. They're dropping the things that you just talked about, and they're trying to keep the costs in check, as we've all been dealing with the inflation, and the jumps that have happened in the last year or two. And so you're giving up the coverage. And then what you're trying to tell your client as an insurance professional is, we're trying to manage risk. Any insurance product, life insurance, disability, long-term care, auto, home, health, insurance is a way to have assistance or somebody else assume a level of risk to an event.
Right.
If you can assume the loss yourself, you don't need insurance, right? If you self-insure because you have enough money, then you don't need to pay for insurance. But when you're a new father with 2 kids and a mortgage and a stay-at-home mom, you better have life insurance to cover your passing away and leaving all of them vulnerable. If you've got a $100,000 car and you don't have collision on your car, okay, but somebody totals your car, do you want to write a check to Mercedes for another $100,000, or do you want insurance, right? You have $1 million house, a $2 million house with no mortgage. You're not required to have homeowners insurance. Right. In fact, you only need to have insurance up to the amount of your mortgage. So you got a $2 million house with a $500,000 mortgage, you only need $500,000 of insurance. But if the house burns down, are you going to cover the $1.5 million shortfall? Are you liquid enough? Is that where you want to pull your money from and sell your portfolio out? Right. So you try and educate people to the core of what insurance is about. And, where you come into the equation as an injury attorney is everybody's litigious, right? So the second something happens, who's at fault, pointing fingers, where can I get money? I have damages. And so because our society is prone to that, right? You go to Mexico, they don't have the same tort laws, and auto insurance is like spit cheap because nobody sues anybody. You can't. But here, this is how we operate. So be it. But people are hemorrhaging money between their disability insurance, their life insurance, health insurance has gone stupid crazy. We're in the midst of health insurance season, and people are like, how much? It's like, it's insane. So when people are tight on budget or fed up on overpaying or what they deem to be overpaying for things, they say, what can I cut back on? And it's all well and good, folks, until what? Until it hits the fan. Yeah. And then Paul's like, well, I can only get you $25,000. What? Well, that's all the insurance the other side had. Sorry. They had state minimum, and that's the most that they carry, and that's all you can get from them. And you're like, but I have $300,000 worth of medical bills. Yeah, too bad. Go ahead.
I've seen it happen, and it's usually to the ones who are the worst injured when they go to the ER and the bills get racked up. We're able to make a recovery on the bodily injury side for the person who's at fault, but they really need more. And unfortunately, they don't have UN. And I've had a handful of instances where they're like, Paul, I just cut it a month ago. I just cut it 6 months ago, 5 months ago. There was a crunch in bills and I had to make a decision. And I feel for those people. I appreciate the position that they're in. And it's unfortunate, that Florida doesn't require people to have higher levels of bodily injury coverage, that they don't require, people to be held accountable for the injuries that they cause when they're driving on the roads, negligent or otherwise. So one of the things that you touched on was people who get in accidents. You have your bad drivers, you have your good drivers. Insurance rates go up for people who are completely and utterly blameless. We're talking about a passenger sitting in the backseat of someone else's vehicle and they're going to lunch and a car T-bones them and that backseat passenger gets hurt. They get taken to the ER. They ask, hey, do you have car insurance? Yes, I do. The bill goes straight to their car insurance, their personal injury protection benefits. Those benefits get exhausted by the ER. So they get some CT scans, some x-rays, some initial medical care. There goes the $10,000 in PIT benefits. And now that individual, as soon as his or her insurance policy expires and it comes up for renewal, they're looking at a huge increase because they have a PIT claim, something they had nothing to do with.
Right.
It's amazing how often that happens. And I explain to my clients, I'm sorry it's happening to you. It's what insurance does. It's like you said, either you're going to have to pay for it eventually, even if you're a good or bad driver or just someone sitting in the back seat. Insurance companies are going to find a way to get their money. And until there's real reform, not this stuff that happened in March of 2023, that was, in my opinion, fake tort reform, something that the legislature tried to make it look like insurance rates are going to go down. I think you get a test of this. They haven't gone down since March 2023. They've only gone up, and they will continue to do so. And yet the insurers, like myself and so many others out there, yourself included, are the ones still paying for it.
Well, it's the same with the Affordable Care Act, the ACA. It was supposed to be providing affordable health insurance, and it's somewhat did the exact opposite. So
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I'm in my early 60s, and a non-subsidized plan on the ACA is about $1,200 a month, and that's per person. So it gets very, very expensive, and knock wood, in good health. So we're in this, I'll call it semi-crisis mode, of people drowning in the world of insurance and being improperly covered. What other suggestions or tips, what can we tell people to do that's actionable these days that, even if you knock off $100 a month, it's a drop in the bucket to what a lot of people pay these days. And I was going to give you a scenario. I got sidetracked in my own brain there for a second ago. I parked at valet once with my car at a restaurant, and the valets are third-party providers, right? The restaurants don't want nothing to do with it. And the kids smashed the crap out of my car. And they pull the car up, and I'm like, I didn't give you the car like that. The whole front end was smashed up. And so the restaurant owner comes out, right away denying liability. And they take us in the back, and they have camera system, and they show us, and the kid just takes a different vehicle and smashes into mine and puts the car in and doesn't even look at my car. You can see he just totally ignores it and runs away. And lo and behold, the kid's gone for the night. So they can't even question him. Like, he's gone. You don't think they sent home. And so where I'm going with this is eventually the owner of the valet service is offering and willing to pay for the damage. Okay. We dickered and fought over a car, a loaner, right? Because I'm without a car. And then the parts I needed, it was a BMW. So I needed a hood, and that took months. And so I'm driving the car. And so they paid for a certain amount of a rental car. So I'm out of money. And here's the hiccup. Here's the part that people fail to either negotiate or get. And, certainly it's not a fortune where bringing somebody like you in may or may not make sense. But what happens when I go to get rid of my car?
Diminution of value.
My car dropped $5,000 from the damage on the so-called Carfax. Right. So who's reimbursing me for that? And that's what people forget a big piece about is, the other side took care of it and they paid for the damages, and whether it's valet or something else. But all of a sudden my car has a ding, and that ding drops the value. So when I go to sell it or trade it in, I'm getting less than I should have. And I got stuck eating that. And I was obviously quite upset. It's like, not part of it. So, again, that's a small ticket item. It's maybe $5,000 or $10,000 situation, but it then cost me another $4,000 or $5,000 on the diminished value. But, where does somebody like you step in? Like if somebody has an issue at a valet, like, is that even in your wheelhouse? Is that something that you would want to talk to people?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. What's my statute of limitation?
Well, again, if you haven't signed a release agreement, I say go after them right now.
I don't remember.
My recommendation to everybody is call me first.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody that you're close with who's a personal injury lawyer, call them first. You just need to get in front of a lawyer who you trust, who knows about these things. If you call a transactional SEC lawyer, they don't know more likely than not what I know, right? I've been dealing in this world for a very long time, my entire career. So the knowledge that I have is useful, even if I'm not even making money. Right. I always tell my clients that once we settle their case and it's resolved, or they call me and I end up not signing them up, they're going, what do I owe you? I say, don't owe me anything. What I want you to do is use the information and go help yourself. And if you need me down the road, I'm here for you. I'm not here always to make money. My job is to help people. And if I help people and then there's compensation for myself and my law firm, great. But my number one goal is always to help people. So in a situation like you that you just described, if you had called me off the bat, I would have given you all the advice I can, which would have been make sure you get everything in writing. Make sure you get evaluation of your damages from at least 2 auto body places. Make sure that you get the diminished value report, which costs a few $100. And I could send you to a guy to get that done. And then you could use that to negotiate. And if you called me up and said, all right, Paul, I'm not the best negotiator. This is what they're offering me. What do you think? I'd help you out. I'm not going to be signing up as a client, right? I don't do property damage work like that. And most lawyers, that amount of money is just too small where it makes any sense to do it. But the benefit is you're going to have all the advice. You're going to know what to do. You spoke to someone who's knowledgeable in the area, and you can rely on that advice. And that's what I would have told you. The diminution of value is huge, especially for cars 5 years or younger. After that, it really starts to diminish in the actual diminished value to where it might not be worth it.
Yeah, it depends what your starting line is. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
It depends what your starting line is on the car, right? If it's a G-Wagon for $250, it's still going to be worth something in 5 or 10 years.
Yes, correct. If it's a Kia Forte, that's 10 years old, that car starting brand new isn't very expensive. So
we live in a fairly affluent, right, community where you see the cars that are either multiple 6 figures or not even, it's a rounding error on the other digits sometimes, right? So, so I'm looking at the clock. I know we didn't delve too high into the homeowners, but anything there that you speak to or have some tips on the homeowner side?
Sure. The biggest tip that I have when it comes to homeowner insurance claims is call either your agent or a reputable homeowners and plaintiff attorney. And again, those people can always call me. I'm happy to direct them, and I can even get advice on that. Because what you don't want to do is as soon as you have water intrusion, pick up the phone and call your insurance carrier. Yeah. Because that might very well be, even though it came from a big rainstorm, even though it came maybe even during a tropical storm or a hurricane, It might have occurred simply because wear and tear. And if it occurred because of wear and tear, and you can have that independently verified by your own roofing people, then don't go make a claim. Have the roof repaired. Because the moment you make a roof claim that's bogus and you can't support, your rates are going to go up. Your premiums are going to go up. And you might even get dropped by the carrier all for nothing. And the next big thing is avoid public adjusters. I don't believe you need a public adjuster in order to win your property dispute battle with your homeowner's insurance carrier. I think a lot of property plaintiff lawyers will say the same thing. Usually people end up going to these public adjusters who are going to take 10, 15, 25% of what your recovery is. And when things don't work out with a public adjuster, then you get sent or you find a lawyer. And now the lawyer is dealing with, okay, I have your claim, but we still got to pay the public adjuster. All the while, get a reputable contractor in there. Get a roofing contractor, a GC, in there, evaluate, prepare an estimate, make sure they understand what happened. And now you don't have a public adjuster. You have an expert in the field who does this for a living that can give you a reputable price that is backed by their experience, backed by all their work and years in town. And you don't have someone who's sitting there chomping at the bit to get 15, 25% of what you get from your insurance carrier. So in my opinion, there's a clean way to go about it, and then there's a more difficult route. In my practice, I like to do things as clean and as up and up as absolutely possible, especially when I have a chance to touch the case from start to finish. That's how it's done. So I highly recommend you need to call a reputable lawyer, someone that you know and trust. You can call me. If I can't help you, I know the exact people who can. It's kind of the benefit of not only growing up in town here, but I've been in the legal field long before I became a lawyer. I grew up with a family of lawyers here in Palm Beach County. I've been very fortunate to learn who the best of the best are and who to avoid, and really the pitfalls. So on the homeowners side, that, and lastly, we didn't talk about it, but when it comes to car accidents or even premises liability accidents, when you slip and fall or slip and fall, you need to make sure things are well documented. And one of the first things I tell people to do when you're on scene, get perspective photographs, right? People zoom in on the property damage so you don't know where it's located. People zoom in on the spill or the trip hazard so you don't know what you're looking at. You need to get perspective photographs, get good photographs, and you're taking them not because you're being litigious, because you think you're going to make a claim. It's because in the moment, depending on the severity of what happened to you, you might not know how bad off you are.
Right.
And later that day or in a week, you might find out that, hey, I'm really banged up. And you need to preserve that evidence, because I'll tell you what, the people also involved in that accident, they're not likely to preserve it. And it's best to get it done now so you have it, so you can rely on it. Don't tell people, don't ever talk to an insurance carrier after an accident, whether it's a slip and fall, trip and fall, or an auto accident. Even if it's your own carrier, do not speak to them until you speak with a qualified lawyer. I'm not talking, again, your family law lawyer or your SEC lawyer, someone who does real estate coverage. I'm talking a personal injury lawyer, because those carriers, even though they're your carrier, they're looking out for them and them only at all times. And that's just the nature of the business. We're, that's America, if you will. We're a capitalist, society. Insurance companies are here to make money, and they're here to sell you that they're here to protect you. But the reality of it is you need insurance. It's very important. But those companies are not here to protect you.
But they will to a point. But they're gonna squeeze the edges and the margins where they can. I say this often because obviously we sell insurance and we track our commissions, and every month, I can tell you that somebody didn't pay us our rightful commission, that we have to go down and pester and follow up and knock on the door and say, hey, we didn't get paid on Paul's business this month. And if you don't track it and you don't follow it, you're not going to get your money. So if you think they dicker, that's the word. I didn't say dick. I said dick around. If you think they dick around with claims to save X amount of people are apathetic and they're not going to follow up and they're not going to hire Paul and they're not, just going to let it die on the vine, that's money they get to keep. And now take the million or so insurance agents out there that are getting paid their commissions And now if they just monkey around with 10% of the commissions and nobody ever comes asking for it or saying, oh, we didn't pay you, it's not, it's intentional. I mean, it's by design, folks. Don't think otherwise.
Absolutely.
So the old squeaky door gets the oil. You got to protect yourselves. I hope you took some notes here listening to Paul today. We're going live here on Facebook and LinkedIn. So, certainly hit us up. Paul, how can people reach you? I know you're in West Palm, but give us a phone number, email, what I'll put it in the show notes for the YouTube drop. But, for today's live, how can people get a hold of it?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, www.shalhoubinjurylaw.com. You can also call my office at 561-208-5058. We're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at Shalhoub Law. And, if y'all ever need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is paul@shalhoubinjurylaw.com. I'm happy to help anybody at any time. That's what I'm here for. I love giving back to the community. It's part of how I built my practice and go about my business for many years. But if I can help you and your listeners, Bruce, I'm more than happy to in any way I can.
Oh, I thank you. I definitely appreciate you joining us. The integrity of the show, we don't have advertisement. We don't push products. It's value. You bring value. You're willing to help people. You're willing to have a conversation. You're not looking at it. Your meter's not running and you're not getting paid. It's reputation management. It's paying it forward. This is wrapping up my third year of the podcast, and it's all information. It's all driven for people to be educated, to do their homework, to be proactive. Ask the plan man. Planning, financial planning in general is all about proactivity. And if you're calling Paul, you're now in a reactive position. It's too late to get the better coverage. It's too late to renew that policy. You're now in reactive mode. So all you can do is be proactive, consult with your professional, your insurance agent, your attorney, whatever it might be, and make sure you have the best coverage, the best programs. You understand how it works. I can't, day in and day out, Paul, I can't tell you how many people don't understand what they have on any aspect of their insurances and even getting into their finances. And they just don't know. They don't know what an HSA is. They don't know what uninsured motorist is. They don't know. They just don't know. And so the passion behind my doing this show is to give this is my legacy at some point down the road, that there's all this information that's being put out for free, self-help. And if you want professionals like yourself or me, they can reach out to us. They can get a hold of us. So I appreciate you being here today. Folks, again, one more time, give me the phone number, Paul.
561-208-5058, Shalhoub Law, Injury and Accident.
All right. So if you're watching and listening, if you need some help, you need some advice, feel free to reach out to me at 844-PLAN-MAN. I'm on everything but TikTok because TikTok doesn't like my videos, so they kick me off of TikTok. But we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn or Twitter. So hit us up at asktheplanman.com. Bruce at Ask the Plan Man. Folks, if you need some advice, always get it right. Come ask the Plan Man. Until next time, Paul, happy holidays and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. You too, Bruce. I appreciate it. Had a great time.